Here's how the richest black women in Dallas actually live, and the list only gets crazier as we move. We're talking about a woman who owns a mansion that kills viruses in the air she breathes, a superstar worth $40 million who hands out ice to strangers at a public lake. And at number 1, we have a woman who gave away the best view in Dallas, on purpose. Let's get into it. Number 8. Dee McGuire. Let's open with a woman who got so tired of the commute that she just built the radio station inside her house. And I'm not talking about a little podcast corner with a USB microphone and a ring light. I'm talking professional acoustic paneling bolted to the walls, full soundproofing, real editing consoles. The kind of setup a national network drops serious money on, except this one is sitting inside a custom estate in the wealthy northern suburbs of Dallas, and she actually uses the thing. Because when your voice has to hit somewhere between 80 and 100 markets before most people have finished their first coffee, the drive to the studio stops being an inconvenience and starts being the enemy. This is Dee McGuire, and she is the reason a whole lot of America knows what a good morning is supposed to sound like. But here's the part I love. She did not walk into radio through the front door. She didn't even walk in through the side door. She got in through the reception desk. Her first job in the business was answering phones part-time at a country music station in Killeen, Texas. And that is exactly where the whole thing turned. The station owner's wife heard her talking one day and thought there was something in that voice, and she pushed for Dee to get on-air training. A black woman being trained on-air at a country station back then? That basically did not happen. Dee took the crack in the door and drove a truck through it. San Antonio, Chicago, Philadelphia. She kept climbing, and in 2007 she landed a co-hosting seat on the nationally syndicated Doug Banks Show, which at the time was one of the biggest microphones in urban radio. Then in 2016, Doug passed away, and Dee was handed the one thing nobody can really prepare you for, which is a legend's empty chair. She sat down in it. She built Dee in the Morning out of the legendary K104 in Dallas, and today that show runs in more than 80 markets, Atlanta included. In 2025, they walked her into the National Radio Hall of Fame. Her fortune is estimated somewhere between $5 and $10 million, and the house shows it. Clean modern lines, tall ceilings, walls of glass, and a spa-style primary suite that exists for exactly one reason, which is that when you sign off at 10 in the morning, you have earned the right to go lie down somewhere ridiculous. And she has never forgotten what it cost. Early in her career, a station manager told her to take her braids out before a public appearance. She still talks about it. She champions the Crown Act because of it, and her foundation puts scholarships in the hands of women going back to school and students at HBCUs. She had to fight a boss just to keep her own hair. But the woman at number 7 walked into a building where the entire country already knew the culture was rotten, and she was told to fix it in 100 days. Number 7. Kent Marshall. Quick question. Would you take a job where the whole world already knows your company is a disaster before you even find your parking spot? Because in February of 2018, that is precisely the phone call Kent Marshall picked up. Mark Cuban was staring down a very public workplace culture scandal inside the Dallas Mavericks, and he did not need a spokesperson. He needed a surgeon. He hired Kent, and the moment she signed, she became the first black woman to ever run a franchise in the history of the NBA. Now watch what she actually did with it. Inside her first 100 days, she rebuilt the leadership team so that half of it was women and people of color. Not a task force, not a statement. An actual functioning organization, rewired from the studs. And by the time she walked away in 2024, she had locked in a broadcast deal that let millions of Texans watch Mavericks games for free and push $30 million of upgrades into the American Airlines Center. She showed up to a burning building and left it nicer than she found it. And none of this was handed to her. Kent Marshall grew up in the Easter Hill housing projects in Richmond, California, in a home shadowed by real violence, and her mother gave her one line that she has repeated for 50 years. It's not where you live, it's how you live. That line turned into a full scholarship to UC Berkeley, where she became the first black cheerleader in the school's history. Then she spent 36 years climbing AT&T, ran their entire North Carolina division. Senior Vice President of Human Resources, Chief Diversity Officer at the corporate headquarters right here in Dallas. 36 years, and she still had a whole second career left in the tank. Speaking of a climb that took 36 years of showing up, a lot of it comes down to how the brain performs when it matters. That's the idea behind an audio series called the Genius Switch. It's based on the neuroscience of the flow state, that mode where focus and creativity click at the same time. And the whole routine is just listening with headphones a few minutes a day. It's a one-time $39, less than a single online course, and it's backed by a 90-day money-back guarantee, so you can test it on yourself with nothing to lose. If you're watching on your TV, pause and scan the QR code on screen with your phone camera, or tap the first link in the description. Now, back to what that second career pays. Her net worth today is estimated between $10 and $15 million, built on executive money, her own consulting firm, and board seats at Yahoo, Chime, Geldwen, and BGSF. She's also one of the most wanted keynote speakers in the country, and she can pull somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 for a single appearance. That's a mortgage for a speech. But the estate is where it all makes sense. It's tucked away in one of Dallas's most private residential corridors, and the beating heart of the whole house is a massive open chef's kitchen, built for one specific purpose, which is holding her 4 adult children and the entire extended family at the same time. Her 4 honorary doctorates are on the walls. So is her Mavericks memorabilia. There's a private courtyard outside that exists purely so she can go sit and think. She and her husband fought infertility for 10 years before they adopted those 4 kids, and she beat stage 3 colon cancer somewhere in the middle of all of it. Since spent 50 years building her way into that piece. The woman at number 6 had a crown on her head before she turned 25, walked straight into Hollywood, and then did the one thing that nobody in Hollywood ever does. Number 6, Pat Smith. She quit. Not the career, the lifestyle. And we'll get to that, but first I need you to see this backyard because the backyard tells you who lives here. It is designed to look like a 5-star resort. Big swimming pool, custom hot tub, fully outfitted private guest quarters, and lawns landscaped specifically to host high society charity galas. And then, sitting in the middle of all that elegance like it wandered in by accident, a full athletic batting cage. Because when you are married to a Dallas Cowboys Hall of Famer, the athletic gene in your household is not a suggestion. This is Pat Smith, wife of Emmett Smith, and she was famous long before she was ever a Smith. She came out of Chesapeake, Virginia, and she made history there as the first African-American woman to win Miss Virginia USA, before finishing first runner-up at the 1994 Miss USA pageant. That crown carried her straight to Los Angeles, where she started booking primetime television. Beverly Hills 90210, Sunset Beach, The Wayans Brothers. Then hosting gigs on Extra and Access Hollywood. She had the exact career that 100,000 girls moved to LA hoping to get, and she was holding it in both hands. Then she brought it all to Dallas, hosted her own segment on Good Morning Texas, co-hosted a daily talk show, and guest hosted The Talk on CBS. And in 2012, at the peak of all that visibility, she became a licensed minister through the Potter's House School of Ministry under Bishop T.D. Jakes. Read that again. The pageant queen from Beverly Hills, 90210, now delivers keynotes at Lakewood Church in Houston and at the Potter's House in Dallas, in front of rooms holding tens of thousands of people. The shared family fortune sits somewhere between $15 and $20 million, built on Pat Smith Enterprises, her fashion label PS by Pat Smith, and a nonprofit called Treasure You that funds women trying to rebuild after their whole life has come apart. She throws an exclusive annual retreat for those women, and she quietly paves the way for the ones who can't afford to be in the room. She doesn't announce that part. She just does it. The mansion sits in one of North Dallas's most exclusive enclaves, and it was very obviously built for a crowd. Grand double-height entry foyer. A sweeping curved staircase that belongs in a movie. A master wing with its own sitting room, its own fireplace, and a private loggia looking out over those grounds. It is a house that was designed to be filled with people. So Pat Smith spent a fortune building a home that lets hundreds of people in. 20 minutes across town, there's a woman who spent a fortune building one that won't even let a virus in. Number 5. Gail Warrior. Somewhere in Preston Hollow, there is a mansion that is quietly killing things. Not people. Relax. Pathogens. The entire estate is wired with a built-in air and surface disinfection system that runs around the clock, reacts with the natural humidity already in the room, and wipes out up to 99.99% of the viruses and bacteria drifting through the house. The technology is NASA certified, and the woman living inside it does not just have it installed. She owns the company that makes it. Meet Gail Warrior. And this is what happens when a construction titan gets curious about something. She launched the Warrior Group out of DeSoto, Texas in 1997, doing commercial general contracting, and she leaned it into permanent modular construction at exactly the right moment. Then the phone rang, and it was the United States Army. She landed a $40 million contract to build permanent modular barracks at Fort Bliss, followed by a 500,000 square foot complex at Fort Carson. Now look at what that did to her books. $9 million in annual sales in 2003. $141 million by 2007. She built one of the most successful minority and female-owned companies in the history of this metroplex, and she did it putting roofs over American soldiers. And then she walked away from all of it. Because of course she did. She pivoted into biotech, and today she's the co-founder, president, and executive chairwoman of Casper Technologies, the environmental health company behind that disinfection tech. Her husband is the chief technology officer, and he recently picked up an innovation award from NASA for the work. She also launched a luxury activewear line called Warrior Elements, built around fire, water, earth, and wind, and debuted it at a trunk show at Equinox Preston Hollow, because subtlety is clearly not the goal. Her personal fortune is estimated between $20 and $30 million, and the house is basically an argument she's making. Custom stone exterior. Soaring multi-story entryway, a professional-grade gym, a resort-style pool, and her own purification system breathing through every single room, all day, every day. The woman believed in her products so completely that she turned her family home into the showroom. Meanwhile, her Heart of a Warrior Foundation funds STEM and summer enrichment programs for underserved kids across Dallas. Paid for largely by a casino-themed charity night she throws every year that Dallas high society lines up to attend. So Gail Warrior spent a fortune keeping the outside world out of her home. Head east, out toward the water, and you'll find a global superstar doing the exact opposite. She walks out of hers at night, on purpose, to hand ice to strangers. Number 4. Erykah Badu. In 1997, a woman moved into a stone house near White Rock Lake, and the very first thing she changed was not the kitchen. It was the sound. Before the furniture, before anything, she had a massive professional whole-home audio system installed with invisible speakers so that music blankets the entire property. Every room, the grounds, all of it. That was priority number 1. And honestly, once you know that, you already know everything you need to know about Erykah Badu. Baduism dropped that same year and turned her into a global superstar basically overnight, which means she could have lived anywhere on this planet. Paris. Malibu. A hill in Tuscany. She stayed in East Dallas. 5 generations of her family have been rooted in this city. She came up through the Dallas Theater Center and Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing and Visual Arts, and she has never seen a single reason to leave. Her net worth is estimated somewhere between $30 and $45 million, and here's what separates her from every other artist at that level. The business is family, not family values, family, actual family. Her mother Carolyn is her business manager. Her sister Coco is her personal assistant. Her brother runs global merchandising. Her cousin Ken runs the estate and directs the tours. That is not a corporate org chart. That is a dinner table with a payroll. The house was designed by the architect Jamie Rowe, and it sits in the exclusive Peninsula neighborhood right by the water, surrounded by towering trees and soft, deliberately messy grass. The window trims are neon yellow, which tells you that this woman personally signed off on every square inch of the place and had zero interest in what the neighbors thought. Inside, huge rectangular windows catch the sun coming off the lake with the Dallas skyline sitting behind it. There are custom easels everywhere, a classic Wurlitzer piano, an electric bass propped up in a minimalist stand, a wall of vinyl behind twin turntables, and art absolutely everywhere, made by her friends, her fans, and her 3 children, including a painting of her and Andre 3000. But here is the detail that beats every mansion on this entire list. On hot summer nights, Erykah Badu takes her kids down to White Rock Lake and hands out ice to the cyclists and the runners and the walkers going past. A woman worth $40 million standing at a public lake at night, giving a stranger a cup of ice for free. So that's one idea of what money is for. Now drive north to Frisco, where there is a woman with a room in her mansion built for nothing but shoes. Number 3. Mahisha Dellinger. Yes, shoes, and handbags, and red carpet dresses. An entire climate-controlled room the size of a small apartment sitting inside a gated Frisco estate, existing purely to hold a wardrobe. And the money that built that room came from a market that every major beauty company had decided was too small to bother with. Mahisha Dellinger grew up in Sacramento with almost nothing, fought her way into Intel, and spent 8 years there as a corporate supervisor. Good job, safe job, health insurance, the whole thing. She quit anyway. In 2002, she launched Curls, an eco-conscious hair care line built specifically for naturally textured hair, at a moment when the beauty aisle was still treating that customer like an afterthought. She was right, and the entire industry was wrong. Curls ended up on shelves in Target, CVS, Walgreens, and Walmart. That is not a nice little business. That is total retail saturation in the biggest consumer market on earth. Then she made the move that put her on this list. California's taxes and regulations were quietly eating her margins alive, so she picked up her entire corporate headquarters and moved the whole operation to Frisco, Texas. Every dollar she stopped handing to the state of California went straight back into the company and into her own pocket, and you can go stand outside the result of that decision right now. Since then, she's launched Huzzy Smart Sips, an organic non-alcoholic beverage line, and told the story of how she built all of it on her own network show, Mind Your Business with Mahisha. Her personal net worth is estimated between $50 and $75 million. And I have to respect this because she actually enjoys it, out loud. She's a fixture on the Dallas luxury scene, showing up to things like the Balmain and Barbie launch at Neiman Marcus. For her 50th birthday, she threw a party at a cocktail lounge in Frisco and had Musique Soulchild show up to perform privately for her guests. Not a DJ playing his songs. Him. In the room. The house is a sprawling custom build inside an exclusive gated community, soaring double-height ceilings, clean lines, custom modern art, resort-style pool out back, and a private security system wrapped around the entire thing. So that's a woman who booked an R&B star for her birthday party. Number 2 on this list fills a Major League Baseball stadium, and not one person in that building is there for a party. Number 2. Sarah Jakes Roberts, Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas, home of the Texas Rangers, 40,000 seats. She sells it out. No concert, no game, a women's conference. Let that sit with you for a second, because filling a professional baseball stadium is something Beyoncé does, and Sarah Jakes Roberts does it by talking. That's the scale of the movement she built, and it's called Woman Evolve, a global network for women trying to hold faith, money, and mental health together at the same time. She started it in California, and it grew until arenas were the only rooms physically big enough to contain it. Then in 2022, she made the move that changed the entire trajectory. She and her husband Toure Roberts packed up their family and their whole operation and left Los Angeles for Dallas. And it was not a lifestyle choice. It was a positioning move because there was a seat waiting. In July of 2025, she was officially installed as co-senior pastor of the Potter's House, the 30,000-member church, succeeding her own father, Bishop T.D. Jakes. Now really think about the weight of that. You are not inheriting a company. You are inheriting your father's life's work in front of 30,000 people, and every single one of them is watching to see whether you can carry the weight or whether it crushes you. Most people would never even attempt it. She walked up and took the microphone. Her personal and ministerial fortune is estimated between $60 and $80 million. The family bought a magnificent estate in the Colleyville-South Lake corridor, which is about as exclusive as North Texas gets, and the house is built for 2 completely different lives at once. On one side, there are formal hosting rooms, custom stone fireplaces, and a professional-grade gourmet kitchen for the family and the guests and the noise. And then there's a private wing set aside for nothing but meditation, study, and sermon preparation. That's the part that gets me. The woman built a room into her mansion specifically to go and be alone with her work. They also held on to the Calabasas estate back in California, worth somewhere around $9.5 million because why would you sell it? And she is relentlessly, almost uncomfortably honest about the hard parts. In 2026, she fractured her neck and herniated several discs after a fall on a trampoline with her daughter, and she spent 6 weeks in a stabilizer. She documented every day of the recovery for millions of followers, because that is the entire brand, nothing hidden. But Sarah didn't invent any of this. She learned it by watching one woman do it first, for 30 years, up close. That woman is number one. Number 1. Sarita Jakes. In 1996, she packed up her life in West Virginia and drove to Dallas, Texas with her husband and 50 families behind her. 50 families. That's it. That's the entire starting capital of what is now one of the most powerful religious and media empires this country has ever produced. This is Sarita Jakes, the mother of the woman you just met and the matriarch of all of it. 30 years later, the Potter's House has more than 30,000 active members and campuses in Dallas, Fort Worth, North Dallas, Denver, and Los Angeles. She runs the church's women's ministries. She's a best-selling author and a speaker in her own right. And she's the founder and creative director of Sarita Jakes Home, her own line of luxury candles, decor, and interior pieces, because apparently building a global ministry left her with some free time. Wrapped around all of it is TDJ Enterprises, the family holding company, running film production, book publishing, and the TD Jakes Foundation, pushing millions into housing, education, and community development. The shared family empire is valued north of $100 million. And honestly, that number undersells her, because you cannot put a price tag on the amount of influence sitting in that living room. Now, the house, or rather the houses, because this is where her story gets genuinely fascinating. For years, Sarita Jakes lived in a custom-built waterfront mansion on nearly 2 acres overlooking White Rock Lake, designed by the famed architect Donald Peterson. 10,681 square feet. A grand double staircase in the foyer. A great room with 2-story windows staring straight out over the water. 5 separate fireplaces, and one of them is in the kitchen. A master suite with a sitting area and a private loggia. An upstairs game room with a built-in bar. A guest apartment. And out back, a resort-style pool, a custom koi pond, a private gym with a sauna, and stone terraces landscaped to hold hundreds of guests at once. The place later hit the market at $5.75 million. And in 2005, she sold it. Not because she needed the money, she sold it because she wanted a gate. The family moved into Montserrat, a guarded, gated luxury community in Fort Worth, into a custom mansion worth roughly $4.5 million, with advanced smart home automation and interiors furnished with pieces from her own decor line. She raised 5 children in this life. Oprah Winfrey is a personal friend of hers. She survived a car accident that left her with lasting physical injuries and never once turned it into her identity. So the richest woman on this entire list looked at a 10,000 square foot mansion on the water, with a view most people will only ever see in a listing photo, and decided that being seen wasn't worth it. And that is the real flex, isn't it? Once you can buy literally anything you want, the only thing left worth buying is the right to be left completely alone. And those were the 8 richest black women in Dallas. So which one got you? The mansion that cleans its own air, the superstar handing out ice at a public lake, or the woman who traded the best view in Dallas for a gate nobody can get through? Drop it in the comments, smash that like button if any of this surprised you, and subscribe to Black Status, because we break down empires like this every single week.